So the governments are not preparing the people for this at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that itself is suspicious. And one of the things I learned years ago was never think you're on the right trail until you get a strong government denial or a strong denial by anybody. In other words, it's like, what are you holding behind your back when you walk into the house and your friend or your wife or husband is got their hands behind their back? You wonder, what do they have in their hands?
Yeah, right. Yes. Yes.
So what are they hiding? It's like, I want to know, inquiring minds. So what we've got now is we've got a situation where we know there's going to be food shortages. We know that they're trying to create a matrix. We know they're building underground bases at a feverish pace. I mean, I don't have enough time to tell you all the things I know about all the bases, but they're enormous and they're everywhere.
Yep.
They're building an average one in America, just in the continental United States, lower 48, every 7 weeks.
Yep.
They're completing another base that's averaged between 4.5 and 7.5 cubic miles in size.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
Now, there were just 2 recently finished in Norway that were 12 cubic miles in size. They were building two giant super ones in Norway. The Norwegians are a very big part of this, and they also have their own ionospheric heater that's part of our world ionospheric heater array system, like HARP and so on. It's more than just the United States. There's other countries that are doing this too.
Yes.
And it's really stupid what they're doing. That's what they hit the Belova rocket from Russia and spun it around and made it do all those weird things.
Mm-hmm.
It's them messing around with the Earth, because when they put that energy up, they can trigger an earthquake at a distance thousands of miles away. They can move the jet stream. They can cause a super volcano or a volcano to go off that's been storing energy that might not happen for 10,000 or 100,000 years, and they can make it happen early.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, not smart. Really stupid stuff they're doing.
Okay.
So, where we're going is this. We've got an economic system which was in the fall of 2008. They literally are collapsing it and pulling the money and credit out of the real economy into a casino economy. And according to economic experts, they've contracted it by the world economy by 1/4 of the money on the planet. 1/4 of the wealth has disappeared. Well, it doesn't disappear.
It doesn't disappear.
It moved into the casino economy like energy and matter, just like a white hole, black hole. If matter goes into the black hole, it emerges from a white hole in a different part of the galaxy. Right?
Yes,
Same thing with money.
Exactly. Yes.
Same part as money. It doesn't go anywhere. Just like our spirits never can be destroyed. They're just going to appear elsewhere, and we may not remember like Cylons, but we're still us. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
So here's the issue. They know this, and when the big aha comes, it's like all these converging cycles tells us. And this is why all of these prophets are doing, they talk about the Nostradamus effect. They had this series, but they didn't come to the conclusion they all looked at it just prophetically. What I'm telling you here can be verified scientifically. If we look out with satellites, if we look at the geological record, if we look at the magnetic record of the magnetite in the rocks and volcanoes, if we look at all these evidences of species die-off or the telluric fields in the oceans, because when these pole reversals happen, it kills on average 84% of the life in the oceans, and it kills 14% of the life on land. So it's more dangerous because oceans are very conductive of electric currents. So if there's a lot of plasma discharges through the oceans, a lot of the ocean-based life forms are going to get fried.
Yeah.
Okay? That's why the telluric currents drove out the worms or the snakes or the frogs up from the ground, because the ground's got lots of moisture down there and whatever. So we have that. So in other words, here's what I'm predicting, and I'm going to expand on my talk when I speak in Santa Clara, California on June 6th. I'm predicting that we're going to have a move to try to set up a false flag like a nuclear explosion in one or more cities in the United States, just like they talked about in this conference, because they want the distraction of us to have to go to war to pull us out of the so-called depression, which they created. And at the same time, they also want us to be distracted and have a full biometric system set up so they have total control of the population, so that we won't interfere with their survival when they take their golden tickets and go underground. So the real thing is, even a war or a pestilence or any of these things, is don't tell the public, distract them with war, austerity, famine, and depression, so they won't interfere with us going underground to hide from what's coming, so we can reemerge decades or centuries later when the Earth is fit to live in.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
And Where the big aha comes is that we now know that the magnetic flip of the sun is about to happen in less than 2 years, and the magnetic flip of the Earth has already started, which means it can tip it over. So it's going to flip completely. When that happens, what happens is we've got two spinning spheres. We've got the sphere of the outer crust, of the crust in the outer mantle, and then we've got the inner mantle, which is radioactive, and the engine driving the magnetic field, creating this magnetic flux field we call our magnetosphere, rotating around this iron core, and they're differentially rotating. And in a sense, if you have like a spinning top that's gradually twisting and rotating 43 kilometers per year further westward towards Siberia. So in other words, this inner mantle is actually spinning, but actually moving and rotating and moving its precession of its north pole towards Siberia. And the crust and the upper mantle isn't. So there's going to be a differential force when that flip happens magnetically. The two are going to move, how can I say it, back into phase, which means it's going to abruptly yank the crust and the upper mantle to be moved so that the North Pole rotational axis will move towards Siberia.
Right. Now, we spoke about this a few months ago, and you described then that you felt that this effect was going to happen pretty much at walking pace over several months. It will be.
Period. It's going to be walking pace because of the inertial forces and the internal viscosity between the upper and lower mantle, right? The internal viscosity there. Okay. So it's going to move at a relatively slow pace. So that's not going to create a super tsunami like Emmerich talked about. If we have tsunamis at all, and again, that's still a question, it can only occur if you have something like a super volcano break off, or we have a major slide of like a lahar of a giant ice field like in Norway, okay. And giant glaciers where you get, hundreds of square miles of glaciers decide to finally go to the ocean. So those are the things that are going to precipitate. It's not going to be a continental flip where all of a sudden in a matter of hours the continents start moving, 1,000 miles an hour. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
Because the atmosphere would explode with fire and everything would be burnt up to a crisp and there wouldn't be any species left. Okay. And the historical geological record shows that it has never happened.
Right.
Because this is happening periodically all the time.
Okay.
Now, during this time when the magnetic field drops, it drops toward around 15%, and then it flips. And it's already dropping at an ever-increasing pace, so it means it's about to flip, and it probably is going to flip in the next 2 years, the magnetic field of the Earth.
Yeah.
That process may not lead immediately to that, what I call the crustal upper mantle slip, until it could be a few years after that. But it's going to occur at some point in the next, I think, 5-6 years. We're going to see a crustal slip that will move the axis of the North Pole towards Siberia. And from what I've been reading and analyzing, I'm estimating it's going to move about 1,200 miles towards Siberia, which means the Northern Hemisphere, North America, Canada, the U.S., Canada will occupy the geographical position of the United States, and the United States will occupy the geographical position of Mexico and Central America.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, okay.
It's also going to angle them so that the actual angular positions of the continents are going to move. Plus, there'll be some areas because of this, and I have the FEMA documents. This is another piece from John Moore. We've got our sources that actually are sending us the actual documents, 400 pages, that the federal government's known for 25 years, and FEMA, and the U.S. Navy, et cetera, and all these letter agencies. They've known there's going to be major, within like a month or two, a couple months, major rises in sea levels and coastal areas, and it's going to be caused by the movement of the continents at a what I call a drift pace, which I talk about like a 1.6 miles per hour, which in 2 months would move North America 1,200 miles. And what that'll do is, because of the bulge of the Earth, so there's areas that are going to be elevated, and there's other areas that are going to sink.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Because the water's got to go somewhere.
It's got to go somewhere, and that change in bulge is going to change the shape of the Earth.
Yeah.
It's also going to shape the areas where the coastal, and the thing is, on the east coast of the United States, you can go 200 or 300 miles in, and you're only 200 or 300 feet above sea level.
Yeah, sure, yes. John Moore's been talking about this for about a couple of years now, and actually, it was one of his